computer. All right, Laura, just go ahead, take it away, and I will.
Wonderful, thank you. I think that the number one thing I'd like folks to take away from my session was just this idea that creativity can look so many different ways. We often think about, I mean, I'm a visual artist, and we think about art as, something that maybe is just about like painting or specific art making. But yeah, to lead a creative life can be gardening, can be baking, can be just planning fun activities that you do with those you care about or those you work with. So there are so many different ways to facilitate creative living within your culture. So.
And can you just introduce yourself so people know who you are once again?
So my name is Laura Johnson. My business is Laura Margo Murals and Custom Art. So I work with residential and commercial clients to create custom art and murals in their spaces, and I also do private painting events, kind of like paint and sip classes, but just working with organizations and individuals to bring the visual arts into their spaces and kind of create pleasing environments that sort of signal that this is a creative space and that we value out of the box thinking.
Great. Awesome. All right. PlayLab, who would like to speak on behalf of Group 2?
Right here, I'm Diana David.
Go for it.
Yes, wonderful. I just wanted to leave this with everyone. PlayLab's perspective of play is that we've always played ever since we were children, and that we shouldn't ever stop playing, because playing is the fastest way to learning and growing and continually growing. And it doesn't matter what age, stage, or phase you are, play is an ultimate reset tool to be able to regenerate ourselves. It's not a competitive nature, there's a collaborative nature in our community. So the things that we want you to always check in with yourself is this experience allowing you to have a different perspective, like shifting your attention to something else? Is it creating curiosity? Are you experimenting with new possibilities, using your imagination, using active meditation to like design and divine a new future? And can you redefine the culture that you're currently in and, inspire something new just by shifting the way you move? Can somebody be inspired to join you in a culture you're creating? So it all comes with the art, the expression, the voice, the beingness that you show up with that creates your culture. So what are you contributing? And then lastly, we can beat the battle of attrition. And attrition is just this weakening of our beingness. And by doing play, any sort of activity, and we have all many ways of play that we've known as a child, 5 years old, and up until now, we'll have many different ways of playing, from cooking, from exploring new spaces, to talking in a new way. So allowing yourself to regenerate your strength by creating new possibilities for yourself. So this is PlayLab. PlayLab's experiment in life is to just continue to grow new experiences for yourself, to PLAY, practice learning about yourself.
Yay. Wonderful. Laura, sorry, Mary, take it away.
Sure. So Mary Hendra, I am not an artist, but I do play a lot with art, and I use art within helping individuals and teams who are moving through transitions, do so with greater calm, with greater stillness, creativity, community, and a dash of play with that as well. And I do that currently as an executive at a tech startup, but I have also done that in government, schools, and nonprofit management. So I'm very happy to bring this group an activity, and really with the space of saying, like, we can practice the process of art without focusing on the product. And that is part of what helps us find those spaces of reflection in our day.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mary. Kenny.
Hello, I'm
Yay.
Kenny. I am from Funmentum Labs. I've started 2 companies around fun. But really what I do is, like, I help people who have really big problems play with them. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, where'd that solution come from? And the one takeaway I want you all to have to take with you is it's inspired by an Einstein quote. It's creativity is intelligence having fun, right? And it's like if fun helps create the theory of relativity, it can probably help with your problem, your challenge. And while companies, business, our society invests so much in intelligence, I would just ask you to kind of invest a little bit more into the fun, art, play side for yourself and play with your challenge.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Timothy.
Hi, yeah, I come to this discussion from a lot of angles, but the work that I've done with Linda was graphic recording, where I illustrate in conferences and meetings and try to capture the sensibility of what's happening in the room. And that used to start with like making vocabulary for what people are saying and kind of getting the content. And then it gets more and more kind of messy as I've done it over the past 10 years. But I've always been in the arts. And I think the discussion that we had was neat because when we talked about this book, Your Brain on Art, which is something everyone I think should read if they're interested in this space at all, because it's probably the most, I think, exhaustive research on how the brain relates to art making in all forms of art. But the thing that I think I would bring that's kind of the one big takeaway was that we all have this kind of story, like we all relate to art from somewhere, and everybody kind of had an interesting story to tell, which I think in a certain way the icebreaker became the discussion, which was really like how has art influenced, you know, a decision you've made in your life or the way your life has gone. And from like the discussion of an art teacher saying you shouldn't trace, so you're wrong now, you know, like these kind of harsh kind of cultural expectations of what's right and what's wrong, to like somebody discovering that taxidermy made them want to become vegan. I thought that was pretty relevant. You know, these like things that you just think are just kind of moments going by can be really significant. So, and that I think I would tie, if I was going to take one more leap, to the fact that people whose parents like had brought home like indigenous art from other cultures were really impacted by that. And so I think, you know, it taps into this ancientness, and all of us, like where we all come from is tied to art somehow. And I think there's kind of something magical about that. We're doing something that's kind of beyond even the brain. So yeah, I was really excited by it, and I think there's a lot to unpack there.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Jamie.
All right. Thanks for inviting me today. I'm Jamie Stang. I'm a professor of public health at the university in my day job, but my volunteer work is around master gardening. And so I love to talk about gardening. I think if there was one takeaway that I'm really hoping people get around gardening is that it has so many, people think of gardening as, oh, it gives you food or it gives you joy, but there's so many more things that it gives you. It gives you a sense of connection. It gives you a sense of purpose for many people. It's a way to give back for philanthropy within your community. It's really a way to get to know your coworkers. Like if you start building a hydroponic system or a garden, you would be surprised at the skills that people have that you never see when you're just sitting alongside them in a day job. And I guess the one quote that I have always loved. So as I said, I'm a professor and I've been doing some focus groups and some working with communities in inner Minneapolis around gardening. And I was working with a Somali high-rise, and this older gentleman who came to our focus group, his quote was, first you get food, then you get friend, then you get community. And that's how he sort of summed up the work that we were doing with creating a garden in his building. And we later found out he had not been coming out of his apartment for about 2 years. And somehow the garden and it was a very low stakes way for him to connect with other people and to have this automatic thing that he could talk about and start to make those connections. So I'm hoping that we can do that in all aspects of our lives, and gardening can be one of those ways that we do that.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Laura.
You need to unmute.
Yep. I apologize. My cursor was not working. So hi, everyone. I'm Laura Delavie with Alchemist. The bulk of my work is about strategic change consulting and leadership coaching. And I've been using the Lego Serious Play method since 2007, sort of on and off with clients who are willing to go there in that space of play, bringing Lego bricks into organizations. But I've been reading a book recently called I Never Thought of It That Way by Monica Guzman. And she has this great quote, which is, stories are good for bringing the mystery of who people are and what they think into an exchange that could otherwise get stuck on what's already known, named, and articulated. And I thought it was such a great reflection of some of the power of the Lego Serious Play method, because you get this revelation of things that you didn't even know you were thinking. Oftentimes when you tell the story about your own model, and you learn so much about what other people think when they tell stories about their models. And there are 7 application techniques, and you always start from individual model building, and you can go to shared model building and build landscapes. There's so much about the method that's powerful in terms of getting deeper and richer insights, but also aligning individuals toward shared meaning and creating greater alignment and commitment to action. And I would say also, we often think like Lego bricks. You go to the store and you can buy a kit and you build a model or a figure that looks like what the box tells you. But Lego Serious Play is so different. Yes, you still use Lego bricks, but the models that everybody builds are so unique and different, and there's such diversity. And it really does rely on that power of story and metaphor, and imagination and collaboration. And so part of it for me is you get to play, but it's in the purpose of something that is potentially like a business or an organizational issue. And so I encourage everybody to play seriously.
Nice. Thank you. And of course, Filsun, Laura teed it up for you around storytelling.
Let's unmute myself. So I had a wonderful time in my breakout session. I will say, let me first introduce myself, Filsun Moussa. I am a co-organizer with Linda in the Lean In Together Minneapolis, St. Paul, and I live in Memphis, Tennessee, so I'll let you figure that out. I also am a senior manager at Medtronic at our base in Memphis, not Minneapolis. So I have a lot of connections to Minneapolis. I'm also Somali American, and the biggest population of Somalis in the US is in Minneapolis. So there's a lot of love and connection to Minneapolis, but I am right here in my South. I was born in Texas. I lived most of my life in the South and moved around a lot. So storytelling, when Linda asked me, I said yes, but I have to tell the story so that you guys can. So to me, storytelling is an important tool in the work that we do when you're trying to pitch something, in the stories that you tell yourself to motivate yourself, in a way that you can actively listen, in which we did in the breakout session, so you can hear other people's story and then repeat back to them to show that sense of connection and that you've heard them. And the story I probably told Linda that made me come here, that she asked me to do it, is a story that I'm going to share with all of y'all. I have a daughter who has type 1 diabetes, and she's had it for 2 years, and it's been a life changing. She got it at 5 years old, a month before kindergarten started, and it felt like this huge mountain to climb. How are we going to do this? I was in the middle of my MBA. I was working at a huge team, and I just got this huge new project, and she's diagnosed, and I felt like, how could I do this? So I do what I normally do is I tell myself stories to overcome the challenges that come in front of me. And the story that I love to tell myself is a story of resilience of my mother and my grandmother. And so I said, if my grandmother in her 30s could make the decision to to trust her children in the hands of a camel herder to get them out of a fascist government movement that was killing children in Ethiopia, and had my mom and her 2 brothers walk for a month from Ethiopia to Djibouti, I could figure out in the medical technology with great health insurance how to take care of Asia's diabetes and teach her how to take care of herself. If my mom could come to America at 19, not speak English, and have me a couple years later and raise me to be able to do what I'm doing, there's no reason why I cannot teach Asia how to live with this, to not feel any different than anyone else, and have a wonderful, expansive life. So I'm sharing this story with all of you, that the stories that you tell yourself is just as important as the stories that you tell others. And it's actually probably more important to tell yourself the stories that uplift you. And maybe you don't have a parent that you can kind of lean on or that story, but I'm pretty certain every one of you here has done something amazing. Just reframe it. Make sure that you can see what you've done to uplift yourself from a previous situation when the next challenge comes in front of you. So I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Filsun. Wonderful. Molly, take it away.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Can you hear me, y'all? It
Yes.
says unmute. Okay. My name is Molly Raymond, and I represent both myself in my consulting work at Willow Within, as well as my role at the city of Minneapolis as a senior learning specialist in their learning and development team. And we were talking about creative expression in the workplace. So why is it important, and in what ways can we use creative expression? So when we think about creative expression, it's not just when we were talking about it, and the way that this was designed is more about an opportunity to use our imagination and our minds to create something that represents what's inside. And the beauty of using creative expression is that, 95% of our thoughts are subconscious. Or so the psychologists say. So we have 5% that we're just tapping. Using creative expression allows us opportunity to bring what is invisible visible, and allows us to conjure our soul and our inner child and our sense of inhibitions that we have so often been taught to kind of tamper in the workplace, especially, right? So using creative expression allows us to explore abstract concepts, emotions, ideas. So when we think about how might we use it at work, when we just started, we had great discussion, and I wasn't able to share all of the bazillion ideas that I have and that we've used in my work. But in using it both in team building exercises, in small well-being sessions and large sessions, I use it in workshops and courses, even as a small tool or as a whole function of an event. It has this opportunity to, whether you're using metaphors or whether you're using writing, or allowing folks an opportunity to kind of peek into their soul a little bit, right? It unlocks something that they may not have realized was part of their authentic self. And it just really builds both self-awareness, as well as, unlocking our stress cycle. And I'm going on and on. So I will just stop because I know that all of us are doing too much. So cheers. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you all that were in my group.
Thank you, Molly. Joyce, we'd love to hear about the mask making and vulnerability.
Thanks. I'm having trouble finding out how to raise my hand. So I thought
You're
maybe
so
I'll
good.
unmute myself
We're
at the
awesome.
end. So I think we had a real interesting session. My goal was to help us see how we can close the gap between who we are on the inside and how we show up in work and in our communities. And that's difficult to do because the reason we put on a mask is there's some risk that we perceive or some way we feel that if we are our authentic selves, we'll become more vulnerable. So we talked about this in terms of ourselves, as well as in terms of some of our colleagues and people that we also supervise. In my resources, I put together a list of things so that if any of you who weren't in the session, or even those who are, want to explore this and do it with your group, everything you need to do it is actually there. And of course, there's multiple ways to make it happen. We didn't actually draw the mass. We talked about it, but I'm hoping that the people in our group will follow up with the link. There's a goal. There's a global initiative where we're all sharing our mass. It's amazing that you see children through people that are 99 years old sharing their mass and sharing the characteristics of themselves that they're gladly to put out there and ones that they feel they must hide from others. And if anybody's feeling lonely, you'll go on to that million and you'll find several that look like they're your sisters and brothers and cousins, etc. This is a big thing. So I'm hoping that as people return to work, they look at things in a slightly different way and give themselves and take the courage, as Brene says, that to be yourself and to do that in a productive way that's useful to others. So we had a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joyce.